Hello, audience. We're here to talk to you about a very serious matter. See, every day, thousands of young hatchlings are just destroyed, their treasures stolen, their princesses rescued, and all by who, you ask? Adventurers like you.
And for just 10 cents a day, you could save one of these hatchlings.
So remember, donate to the paid number below, so that way these young hatchlings can start a horde of their own.
Be the change in a hatchling's life.
Once we were in our peace with our lives assured. Once we were not afraid of the dark. Once we sat in our kingdom with hope and pride.
What's up, fellow plebs? My name's Jacob.
And I'm Jacob, and you're watching Jacob Squared. Okay, so today we're doing another discussion video. As per Jack Spade, we are discussing dragons and their impact on fantasy. So, to start us off, so the subject at hand here is dragons and how they've impacted fantasy, correct?
Fantasy, nerdism, all that good stuff.
So nerd culture, fantasy, I'm assuming sci-fi is off the table here? I don't think they've really influenced sci-fi too much, but...
Unless they make like a cyborg dragon.
Yeah.
Which, knowing the Sci-Fi Channel, that's going to be a thing.
At one point. So, let's start with the real stuff and work our way into the fake stuff. Alright, so let's start with the two dragons I know best, which would be the European dragons, which almost everybody knows about, and Chinese dragons. Now, you want to take me off here with the European dragons?
Well, European dragons are the ones you see typically the most. They're the ones who are, burning down cities and, the ones that are up in the caves guarding the treasure and...
And the guards are telling the king, hide your kids, hide your wife.
Exactly. Those are the ones. Those are the ones we typically see.
Alright.
So those are the ones that are like the mainstream ones right now.
And then you have Chinese dragons, which are a lot a bit different. Alright, so whereas European dragons are more of the arsonistic antagonists, Chinese dragons are more of the Mr. Miyazaki, I guess you could say. They're the wise old ones, who live for like thousands and thousands of years. And for the right price, they could tell you pretty much anything. They enjoy games, they help people out, they can control weather.
It's Mr. Miyagi.
Mr. Miyagi.
Don't know who Miyazaki is. Are you trying to say?
I'm waiting for the more you know.
Ah.
Anyway.
But like a good example of that is Mulan.
Ah, yeah, Mushu.
Yeah, Mushu. Great example of that, I think. Well, Eddie Murphy did play him. He's a good example of maybe he's not the wisest dragon of them all, but he's the good guy dragon trying to help out the main hero, stuff like that.
Whereas a good example for the European counterpart,
Smaug, maybe?
we'll get into that one later. A good representation for the evil dragon would actually be Maleficent's dragon form. If you've ever watched Snow White.
Okay.
Or was it Sleeping Beauty? It was Sleeping Beauty, my bad.
Sleeping Beauty. Sleeping Beauty!
Okay. Pardon our mispronunciation and our tendency to drift from subject to subject.
We're intelligent, I promise.
I promise you, sir. Okay, so yeah, in my opinion, Maleficent is a good representation of the European dragon. Kidnaps a princess, burns everything to the ground, hide your kids, hide your wife. Whereas Mushu, yes, is a great representation for the Chinese dragon, who is known as the wise protector. So, now that we've got the stereotypical olden stuff laid down, we can get into the more modern day stuff. So, okay, so how have dragons influenced fantasy? To answer that question, you have to go into a lot of convoluted, complex stuff. Like, I don't know, what would you say is a good representation of dragons in modern day fantasy?
Well, if you look at games like D&D, if you look at books such as, like, I don't know, Aragon, if you look at video games such as Spyro, it's all just kind of... it's all different interpretations of dragons. It's all the same basic thing, but everyone has their own little interpretations on them.
You know, it's funny you should choose those three, because that is three different representations of how dragons are. In D&D, you've got, well, if you're not going with the metallic dragons, you've got the chromatics, which are pretty much all evil and selfish in some way or another. And then if you go into Aragon, you have these dragons who are bound with humans and will work together with humans and or elves and or, I don't know if there's ever been a dwarven rider, actually, so... and then if you go into Spyro, you have the protagonistic dragon that's helping his race. That's really funny, actually. Alright, another thing I feel we should talk about. What is a dragon and what isn't a dragon? Alright, examples of dragons. Those three. Dungeons and Dragons, their version of dragons is usually correct. Aragon, surprisingly, is a correct, accurate example of dragons. Spyro, he's a dragon. He's a dragon.
Yes.
He is a dragon. I didn't say anything otherwise. Okay.
Say nasty Nork on your ass.
Anyway, examples of not dragons. Skyrim. They're not dragons, guys. They're not.
Are they wyverns?
They're wyverns, yes. What's another good example of wyverns? Thinking now, damn it. D&D actually has wyverns in it. You got one?
Nothing.
Smaug. Right, Smaug. He is technically a drake. Or a wyvern. He doesn't have 4 legs and wings. He only has 2 legs and wings. And he crawls like a lizard. That is a drake. That is a drake, friendo.
Are you sure he doesn't have 4 legs?
He doesn't. He does have arms, but they're attached to his wings. So, there you go.
But he uses it to crawl around.
Yep. That's still a wyvern. Alright, so now that we've covered that, let's go into how have they impacted fantasy. Well, more often than not, you know, and in my opinion, I think the best representation of dragons is the Maleficent Smaug version. The arrogant, powerful, all-knowing being that just doesn't just exist. People are afraid of them because of how powerful and fear-inspiring they are. They're so just big and scary that nobody wants to mess with them, and they rely on adventurers like you and me.
Which is typically how they're portrayed anyway. They're typically portrayed as the antagonist, the douchebag, the burning down my city.
You're eating my lambs.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
He kidnapped my daughter. Anyway. And then, Jacob, what's your interpretation of dragons?
Well, personally, my favorite, I always like it when dragons have riders. I just think it's a really cool combination when you combine riders and dragons. Because, because if you think about it, they are both, humans and dragons are both intelligent creatures, obviously. So, and typically when you see them working together, that's kind of like a, thing, because, you got you have the human, and then you have the dragon who just fire everywhere.
Alright, so the impact. We have to get back to that. The impact. See, that's where I feel like it's tricky. I don't know about you.
Well, the impact is they've added story. Dragons have added tons of story to...
They've added life cycles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have a book. I can't remember what it's called, but I think it's right there. 1 second, por favor. There it is. Dragon Champion. From the perspective of a dragon, actually. From hatchling to adult. So I mean, they have all this lore and life cycles of these dragons, right?
Mm-hmm.
So where you were with that, but yeah, they've really started to maneuver, I guess you could say, in a way like dragons in fantasy.
Well, what they've done is they've brought dragons to life to a certain extent. And I know I'm wording that a little funny, but they've brought them to life. They've brought in, I don't know. Dragons haven't always been this big thing. With D&D players, they've always been a pretty big thing. But I mean, now they're branching out into other things. Dragons started branching out into. In
a way, it's like they've been personified and they've taken on a life of their own, even though they're not technically real creatures. It's a lot of times. Can you talk to one person and not? And them not be able to tell you what a dragon is? Everybody kind of knows what a dragon is.
At least in its in its
base form, yeah.
Most basic form.
So, I mean, honestly, when I think about dragons in fantasy, all I can honestly say is you can't have modern day fantasy without dragons. It's just impossible. I mean, you can throw a bunch of races that don't exist into a world and put magic in there, and I guess that's considered fantasy. But what really makes it jump out at you as fantasy would be, well, dragons. I mean, look at Warhammer. What else? Skyrim, I guess.
D&D.
D&D, Pathfinder.
Yeah.
These are all games, 3 of which are tabletop, yes, but one of which is a video game. And, I mean, can you picture Skyrim without dragons? Can you picture Spyro without dragons?
Spyro without dragon, it wouldn't be Spyro.
It would be a human taking on Nasty Nork.
Woohoo.
I mean, I can't even fathom fantasy without dragons if you honestly think about it.
When you think, okay, but and that's the other thing too. Dragons have made such a huge impact on the fantasy world, the nerd community, that when someone mentions fantasy, almost all the time, the first thing that pops into your head is going to be dragons.
Of course.
Because you're going to associate fantasy with dragons all the time now. Dragons probably won't be the only thing you'll associate it with, but it will be one of the first things you think of.
Yeah. Another thing, as Game of Thrones is doing, and a couple other, I can't name them off the top of my head, but I know a couple other things have done, dragons are intimately tied with magic for some reason.
Harry Potter's done it too.
Yes, Harry Potter.
Hagrid had the egg.
Yeah, the Drake.
Yep.
But they had actual dragons in that. The Hungarian, not the Hungarian horntail. It was the Swedish short snout. It was actually a 4-legged dragon with wings and a tail. So that was an actual dragon. But yeah, magic and dragon, they're tied together somehow. What was it? I had another book, Dragon Home, if anybody's ever read it. What it is it's these kids with powers, right? And nobody knows how they have developed these powers, except for one person who finally admits, oh yeah, basically dragon scales get shed and then it goes into water somehow. It dissolves into a mineral that goes into water and it unlocks magical powers in people. So, I mean, it's just dragons and magic. You can't have one without the other.
It's like peanut butter and jelly.
Exactly. It's not as good if they're separated.
So it's just they are just such a huge part of us now.
Mm-hmm.
When I say us, I mean a community, the community of nerds. They've become such a big thing, and characters such as Smaug are bringing it to the more, to the audience that doesn't really follow the more
original hardcore fantasy
the
elements.
hardcore fantasy stuff. Like for the people who don't play D&D or who haven't played Skyrim, for the people who aren't in deep with all this
nerd stuff,
fantasy and nerdom, it's stuff like that that's bringing it to the more to the masses.
Exactly. So now all these people, I mean, yeah, they knew what dragons were, but now they've got a new appreciation, I guess you could say.
Yeah,
for dragons.
Because they did choose Benedict Cumberbatch is perfect. He did a great job with Smaug. Great job. And so when you have that mixed with just a cool design for him and all, and the whole shebang, it makes people. I think it makes people appreciate it a little bit more. So when they hear people talking about dragons, they're not as quick to judge.
Dragons, I feel, embody something. They embody a reflection of ourselves, if you will. Kind of like, I don't want to say all that's negative, but they're kind of human personality traits taken to the extreme. They're like, aggressive to the max, or arrogance to just the utmost. They're a glimpse through the looking glass, if you will. They embody something that we see in ourselves, but we don't want to admit to ourselves.
And they're the ones getting the crap for it.
Yeah.
We were talking about this before we actually started shooting this.
Mm-hmm.
What if? Just hear me out. What if we're looking at dragons the wrong way? What if we've been looking at them the wrong way this whole time? What if, in all actuality, let's go. Let's do this again.
Yeah.
Let's have your cliche game of D&D. We're gonna use D&D as an example. Your cliche adventure party, your cliche dragon, the whole ordeal.
Okay, so first you got your adventuring party. You're all brawn, no brain knight. You're mysterious and super intelligent wizard.
The douchebag rogue.
Dick ass thief. And
thief.
And you have your do-gooder cleric. That's your four party.
And they're journeying to the mountains to
no more generic
to save the princess
from the evil
dragon within its lair.
Morphumax.
And they must slay the dragon and rescue the princess.
All the while looting the dragon's hoard.
So now, think about this. What if the entire time this dragon has done nothing wrong? He had all of this treasure passed down to him from family, right?
Or had mined it up himself.
Yeah, he found it himself, or, stuff like that.
And the princess was just, he had asked her politely if she wanted to come to his cave and learn from him in his infinite wisdom.
What if the princess was a gold digger? She saw all that gold and she's like, oh, snap. I'm gonna wait till this dragon dies. Uh-huh.
Okay.
And then the douchebag party gets there.
And just kills the dragon and takes his stuff.
No, it's they shoot him with an arrow. Just, ow. Okay. You're humans. Okay. Yeah, I'm not really 100% familiar with your greeting tactics. Okay. So this must be a form of hello. It kind of stings a little bit, but ow. Okay. See, now I'm starting to get
lightning bolts.
I'm starting to get a little confused. Oh. Okay, I know we're in a cave, so I know that that's not coming from outside, so I know that must be you doing it. If you shoot one more arrow at me, I swear to... And that's how the dragon is portrayed. That's why he's portrayed as the douchebag.
Yeah.
Because one of the adventurers comes back and writes down, oh, this dragon was such an asshole. Oh,
we went in there and he just started attacking and breathing fire, telling us how evil we were.
But see, I have this part about how we shot at it for, you know what?
No, just cut that out.
Okay,
just cut that out.
All right, I'll just write that out.
All right, anyway. So, yeah, what if we're just looking at it wrong? But, okay, so, all in all, I guess if we're going to wrap it up, all in all, I see dragons, personally, as a mysterious kind of, an otherworldly force, if you will, a twisted reflection of our own humanity, just given scales, horns, teeth, wings, and fire. And I can't picture fantasy without dragons. They're too ingrained into the central concepts.
Yeah, I just think dragons just personify what fantasy is. They're just a little bit of everything that you want from fantasy. They can be the perfect hero. They can be the perfect villain. They can be the deadliest weapon that you've ever seen. They could be the most adorable little creature you've ever seen.
Baby Smaug.
Baby Smaug.
Look it up.
Look it up. They are fantasy. It is fantasy is... Dragons are fantasy.
It's the one and the same.
They are one and the same. It is just... they're awesome.
Alright, so for those of you who would have an idea for our next discussion video, comment below. Click like and that subscribe for me, please. And like our Facebook.
Yeah, like our Facebook.
I believe we have a Facebook, right?
We do have a Facebook.
We have a Facebook. Like it. Stay tuned on our channel for more videos.
Alright guys, and don't be afraid to be a pleb.
Out.